Good day, everyone. Welcome to our webinar session. This is brought to you by IES Research, a regional team that improves research visibility with an engaging voice through the adaptation of the IES storyboard of Big Why, Why, and What. We design visual and animation to support your research finding, maximize the understanding of the discovery, and increase your research impacts. Everyone, welcome to our webinar session. My name is Wei Fu Wong, and I'm your host. Today, we are happy to have our social media specialist, Casey Tan, to share about promote your work online. Casey Tan is a research outreach consultant, and his consultancy work focuses on using social media to communicate research findings to wider audiences. He uses various platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram to create an omni-channel experience, helping the researcher to seek for collaboration from other disciplines. The sharing will be approximately 15 minutes with the remaining 15 minutes for Q&A. Please feel free to post the question during the session by using the Q&A toolbar located at the bottom of your screen. We will answer them during the Q&A session. For those who are joining the session on our YouTube channel, you are encouraged to send us the question directly via email. So without further ado, let us welcome Casey Tan.
Thank you, Wei Fu. With a growing population existing online, social media can either be a friend or a foe in communicating information. Scientists are increasingly integrating social media sharing to strengthen scholarly communication. As suggested by a recent article published in Nature, research needs to be narrated into digestible and engaging forms for effective dissemination on one or more social media platforms. That leads me to the topic of my sharing today: promote your work online. Because whether it's a PLS or a graphical abstract or even a video, it's just another piece of content that requires promotion to attract the necessary eyeballs to your research. In fact, the actual research outreach only begins at this stage where you start sharing all the created content with your target audience. I will be covering 3 components in this sharing. Number 1, how to bite-size the story from a PLS. Number 2, how to improve your research visibility through Facebook. And number 3, using the analytics in planning the next steps. Why should researchers care about promoting their work? Here are some facts that bring to light the concerns daunting the scholarly community in silence. This is a citation analysis extracted from Web of Science in December 2018, and based on the analysis done on 3 selected countries, over 50% of academic papers remain lowly cited even after a period of 10 years. There is a concern that researchers are actively lobbying or posting their full text at open portals with the hope of improving citation counts. Though that approach could help to cross the 0 mark of the citation barometer, evidently the progress remains almost stagnant after years. Therefore, it reflects the urgency of research outreach before the knowledge becomes out of date. To bite-size your story from PLS, why is there a need to do so? I understand that some of you might be wondering, isn't PLS a good enough measure for promotion? For your information, it is just the first step of promotion. Although a PLS is a brief summary that allows wider audiences to comprehend your research, it is still too dry to get people's attention, especially when shared on social media. Imagine if you come across a 300-word post on any social media platform today, would you read it? Well, yes and no, but chances are your eyes would be more likely to be hooked up by those bite-sized content consisting of graphics, videos, or animation. And that's precisely the reason why you need to convert the PLS into something what I call as snippets. By extracting some of the key messages and essence of your research and sharing those through social media to create the hype that drives curiosity over to your work. Using the storyboard approach, just like any copywriting guidelines, the very first step is to know who we are talking to. In most cases, our key target audiences on social media would consist of scholars, researchers from various disciplines, as well as the news media. Research content needs to be reframed to suit the expectation of a diverse group of audiences accordingly. And by using the same storyboard approach, we could extract the highlights from each segment to form individual snippets for posting on social media. A single PLS can be dissected into multiple snippets. For instance, by capturing the what of the research, which emphasizes the novelty of your work, telling people the results and pairing it up with visuals to illustrate your message, followed by a link back to the PLS page for further details. Also, alter your language within the sharing to get more proximity so that you could engage with emotions that appeal to the audiences. Next, we could highlight the why, which addresses the background and who could potentially benefit from the research. Here is an example. By mentioning the higher thermal resistance and tensile strengths provides promising properties of this replacement composite in guarding frontline forces. Lastly, we may incorporate the big why as well. That involves the linkage with the relevant SDGs and or even blend in with the trending news and global impact. When complemented with a 1-minute video bite, it could attract the attention of not only researchers but also the journalists and the media. However, whether it's the language or visuals, the effectiveness of each post still varies according to the audience group. So it is still a priority to research further and understand the language and creative styles that resonate well with your ideal audiences. How to do that? I will share more about this shortly. Before we go any further, here's a common question that I'm often asked during my sharing. Which platform should I use to promote research for more visibility? With many social media platforms to choose from, where you spend your time is entirely up to you. The bigger question is not which platform to use, it's how to use them effectively. On the left are examples of academic social profiles for collaboration, discoveries, and sharing. And the ones on the right side are commonly known as common man social media platforms. This, I would say, it's a major misperception as these common man social media platforms are rapidly gaining popularity among scientists in the recent years for content marketing and research story sharing. Which platform to use, as I mentioned earlier, is an individual preference, ultimately boiling down to the type of content you wish to create and share with your audiences. Because every platform specializes in certain content styles serving different groups of audiences. If you are targeting the Japanese market, probably Twitter is a good choice as the usage of Twitter is pretty high in Japan. If you would like to reach out to China researchers, you have no choice but to use WeChat Weibo. Although I have titled it as Improving Visibility using Facebook here, but I would like to highlight that you don't necessarily have to use Facebook only, because what I'm about to share is a methodology of utilizing ads function to promote your work to reach a wider audience. And the same method can be applied to other platforms as well, including ResearchGate. One common myth is that people assume by simply posting content on all these platforms, the visibility is bound to go up automatically. Well, yes and no. Yes, if you are already a fairly famous researcher and has lots of fans, followers, whatever you post on social media, it will automatically gather attention. Unfortunately, for most people, we might not be that famous yet, which is why we would need to rely on the ads function to be more proactive in promoting our content. Here is an example to illustrate the differences between posts from the same Facebook page. As you can see, posts with ads don't only reach a more significant number of people, but also garners a great deal in engagement. You have to understand this. There are over 80 million Facebook pages worldwide, generating hundreds of millions of content every single day. How do you ensure people notice your page and your content? It's the same phenomenon as publishing a paper. Without promoting it, the views would always remain low. Yes, you may get a few views here and there through personal sharing among your peers, but never the breakthrough that truly reaches out to a wider audience. On the other hand, with ads, you are able to target very precisely exactly who do you want your content on Facebook to be seen by. Here are some examples of ads on Facebook. Whenever you browse your Facebook feeds, have you ever noticed posts that have the word sponsored? Ever felt like you have an invisible friend who seems to understand you so well to show you information according to your current interests constantly? For example, if you are looking for a new laptop now, and suddenly you start seeing lots of ads related to laptops appearing on your newsfeed on Facebook or Twitter or even Instagram. Those are exact examples of ads being targeted to you, catering to your interests captured from your daily online activities. I will share with you 5 steps to create an ad for your story. There are 2 ways to create an ad, from technically simple through your business page to a more creatively complex using another platform known as Facebook Ads Manager. I won't be covering the Ads Manager as its intricacy could overwhelm you within this short session. So I will run through the basic steps of creating an ad that is fairly similar across every other platform. So there are just 5 simple steps to create an ad. Number 1, you need to have a business page in order to access the ads function. Personal Facebook profiles do not work. Number 2, post a story that you have created and click on Boost Post. Number 3, select your objective. There are 3 choices available here. Link clicks if you wish to drive traffic to other websites, post engagements if you wish to see more people engage with your posts such as commenting, likes, sharing, and etc. And messaging if you wish to have people sending you personal messages on Facebook. In our case, we wish to direct traffic to the PLS, so we will select link clicks. Number 4, here is where you can define your target audience. The way we usually do it is we would perform a citation analysis beforehand to identify the top 3 to 5 countries that have the high interest in that particular subject area. Then, we create ads to target these few countries only. One thing to note is that it is not advisable to target all the 3 countries within the same ad, and reason being is that Facebook algorithm will automatically optimize to show the ad to countries that show the better results at lower cost. Let's say if you are targeting the United States, United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia together, most likely your ads will end up only be shown to Saudi Arabia. And this is because the cost per click is significantly lower as compared to other 2 countries. And the intention of Facebook is to help you in achieving the best result at the lowest cost possible. You can refine your audiences further by demographics such as age group, gender, or even psychographics such as interest, behavior, lifestyle, and etc. In this case, I am filtering people who match the interests of research and must also be interested in scientific journal, and taking into consideration the match of the following keywords related to muscle, spinal cord, or biomedical engineering. Lastly, set your budget and campaign duration and your ad is ready to be launched. The minimum ad budget is $1 per day for Facebook. The next steps using analytics. After running a few ads, now it's time to measure the performance to identify which ad is working and which is not. Remember I mentioned earlier about finding the right creatives and copywriting that works well and resonates with your audiences? Here is the part where you work on the optimization by tweaking your ads accordingly. For example, testing out different copywriting or content targeting with the same audience group and observing the outcome of which achieve a better reach and engagement. As you can see from this example, each of these ads was given the exact same budget, but the amount of reach and link clicks varies. So there is a need to analyze what causes one ad to be more successful than another. It could be the right set of keywords, it could be the country, it could be the nature of the research topic itself, and all these data would aid in the shaping of your next promotional campaign. Basically, there are three main areas which requires an ongoing optimization. Firstly, the demographic targeting. Switching between countries and relevant keywords for maximum engagements, you can target different interests, behavior, or even job titles specifically. Secondly, enhance content with different creatives and copywriting style to localize and resonate with your audience. Lastly, connecting research with global news and trends while staying engaged with community groups on Facebook. Here is a sample of the outcome of an actual research paper whereby the content was promoted on Facebook over a period of 6 months. It shows that continuous posting definitely increased the visibility and proven that such an approach does result in an increased download of full text by over 20%. Another common question researchers often ask is, does high visibility equate to more citations? The answer is once again yes and no. It truly depends on the paper itself. Marketing promotion is just an amplifier to draw eyeballs to your research and ensure people could find your paper. The very first goal here is not to get citations, but the very first goal is to make sure people are looking at our work, people are aware of our research. In a nutshell, here are the 5 rules of story sharing which I hope you guys will take away from my sharing today. Firstly, know your audience so that you could customize your content accordingly. Next, create attractive short snippets for your research and optimize your content with various visuals, videos, or even podcasts that has piqued the interest of a lot of researchers in the Western countries recently. It is necessary to utilize the ads function for detailed targeting so that it could proactively reach a much wider group of audiences at different intervals. And lastly, it is always advisable to post on multiple platforms in order to reach a much wider and more diverse group of audiences. That's the whole idea of omni-channel marketing for research, connecting various types of content related to your research work at multiple platforms and linking them back to your plain language summary and original publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Casey, for the informative sharing. Now we begin the Q&A session. And I believe we received a number of questions so far. For those who joined us late, you can enter your question in the Q&A toolbar located at the bottom of your screen. For those on YouTube channel, please email to us and we are definitely happy to reply to you. Hi, Casey. Thank you for sharing. And how are you today?
I'm good.
Great. You know, a lot of researchers have been telling me that they actually sign up with ResearchGate, ORCID ID, even Google Scholar. But today you're sharing with us about something social media. What exactly the difference between these two approaches?
Thanks for asking that. Although ResearchGate or whether it's ORCID, there are a lot of academic profiles, but they are mostly professional profile. Something like LinkedIn is very similar to LinkedIn, where it showcases researchers' resume and publication. But however, there's still a very academic-like layout, and the content creativity part is fairly limited, simply because it's not meant for sharing stories or snippets. In a way, ResearchGate serves more like the CV where you showcase their publication, their areas of research, which are potentially good for looking for collaborators. Whereas the social media space is more like a community for story sharing, where it gives you more than one way to share a story creatively, moving beyond those boundaries of traditional storytelling and advertising. And that are basically the key difference between the two.
Thanks. And I think someone is asking like which specific platform that get lots of attention. I know briefly you mentioned Japan, they use a lot of Twitters, and I guess probably other countries are quite different like China. But generally from your experience, which platform will get the most attention?
Right. Yeah, a lot of platforms are sometimes somehow it's the country specific. Something like if you're reaching out to China, for example, you definitely can't go any other platform besides WeChat or even Weibo. In general, I would say Facebook and Twitter would be the popular one. But among Asian countries, Facebook is still considered as the highest popularity one, mainly because of they have the widest group of audiences.
Right. One thing that people always skeptical about social media is that they do not really know that how effective it is. But from your experience with project you have done before, how long you see there's a rise in visibility? And I think more ultimately, some researchers would like to know could increase their citation. What's your thought of that?
For visibility, you can measure it through the analytics even after a week of promotion. However, to get it right, in order to see a significant increase, it would depend on a few several factors such as the nature of the topic itself or the target audience group. For example, in the current situation, any news discovery in regards to the COVID-19 would definitely attract more eyeballs and attention. But let's say if you are working on a more niche subject, then it might require a longer period of time, like 1 to 2 months, to optimize the content by testing out various the copywriting style, the creative, because you need to understand your market, which kind of ads and which type of content would suit them better. As for citation, it has to be at least 1 year from the time you promote your paper.
What, let's say the researcher don't do any promotion, you think that they will have citation eventually?
Well, yes and no. Like I mentioned before, promotion is just to guarantee the ensures that people will actually seize your paper because we are living in a world now that is a lot of information, over 1 million new publications being published injected into the market every single year. So without the outreach, the problem is that people, even though you have a very good research, you have done a very great job, but people couldn't even locate and aware of that paper itself. So that is basically the reason why it creates the whole trend of outreaching today. But at the end of the day, whether or not will it links up to the citation, that would truly depends on the paper itself.
Thanks. Casey, do you think that researchers should do all this like outreach work by themselves? I mean, they are actually, busy with their research and doing the paper writing and so on. So what do you think? Do you think they should do all this, everything by themselves?
Right. In my opinion, I would say no. I mean, the point is that we need to understand we all only have a limited amount of time, energy, and resources. And the entire digital environment is changing rapidly. So I wouldn't suggest to try too hard to catch up with every different platforms. Of course, depending on their own interests and capabilities, some of the some of more tech-savvy researchers, they may have the interest to learn more and discover. But I would suggest to start off by actively managing only one or two platforms by themselves, such as, for example, ResearchGate or Facebook, that are considered a more text-based kind of platform, whereas platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, these are more highly visual-based content, which would require more time for the content creation part. So researchers need to be able to learn the art of leveraging other people's time in order to adopt this entire omni-channel marketing strategy, because it's really huge. Eventually, with the rise of augmented reality upcoming, that's another different ball game for research promotion. So I wouldn't suggest to try too hard to do everything by yourself. Focus on what they do the best, which is publishing a good quality paper.
Okay. There's one interesting question here asking that does promotion help to get your paper published? What do you think about that?
That's a good question. Somehow, I think it's quite similar to. I have another similar question that people often ask is that should I promote my work prior to publication? And I would say yes, as long as you have reached certain milestone of your research, and if you plan to file a patent, then you might want to stay quiet. But for scientific publication, it is encouraged to send out the teaser of your work to engage with the right audiences. So let's say if you would like to publish a paper as well, I mean, you would like to publish a good paper. On the publisher perspective, they would also want to receive a good paper. So by doing the promotion itself, you are also opening or generating the eyeballs all among the good publishers to notice your paper as well. So generally, it works well for promoting even before you have published your paper.
Okay. I think someone also asking that is ORCID a social media, right? ResearchGate or ResearchGate ORCID, they are social media. I know you did explain a little bit of that, so maybe you could just reinforce that. Yeah.
Right. ORCID is mostly is a position as an identifier. So it's like an ID to avoid name disambiguation, because we know that everyone has a lot of similar names. Like if you go to Korea, you just Mr. Kim, there'll be a lot of Mr. Kim there. So ORCID basically was created to solve this name and disambiguation issue. So every researcher would have their own unique ORCID ID, so that they can use it and it could be integrated with among all your social media platforms. So it's meant for identifier.
Yeah, that's true. I remember I ran a workshop in Korea. Half of my audience are Mr. Kim, so interesting. Just now you mentioned that a lot of these researchers preferably not to do all this by themselves, and it could be a whole new universe for them to learn. But here comes the tricky question. To do all these things by someone, you have to pay for it. What is your advice for that? I mean, whose money? The researcher money, or talk to the funders?
Right.
What's your thought here? Yeah.
I can share. I mean, in the Western countries like United States or the Europe, research grant includes the activities of research outreach as well. So even in our region, most funders require research to create research impact. That means you can allocate your research fund to promote your work in order to generate such impact.
Okay. Well, due to the interest of time, I'm afraid that we are unable to answer all the questions raised within the section. For questions that have not been answered, please do not hesitate to email us, and we would definitely be happy to respond to you accordingly. So we really thank you, all of you, joining this series of webinar, Read, Write, Draw, Promote. If you miss any of these, you can actually visit our website for the recorded version. And gentle reminder, upon the completion of this series, whether you attended it or you revisit the recorded version, we are happy to give you an e-certificate of participation. upon request. So you could write to us and tell us and say you need one, and we're more than happy to send one to you. But before we go, next week, there is a bonus webinar titled Research Tools. It is sharing by our consultant, Iris Su, again, if you remember her, who's sharing us about how to write very exciting webinar previously. And this time she's going to share with us about some of the popular tools used by the researchers for doing research in authoring, publishing, and outreaching. So please remember to register it and join us again. And once again, thanks, Casey, for joining us. Till then, stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.